you take a sip of an ice-cold Coke Zero Sugar, you know you're getting real Coca-Cola taste you love, and with zero sugar. It's so delicious, you can almost taste it with your ears. Hear those bubbles? Imagine them tingling on your tongue. Fizzy deliciousness. Listen to that cascading liquid. It's unmistakably tasty. All with zero sugar. Crisp, refreshing, and ice cold. Ah, Coke Zero Sugar. Real Coca-Cola taste. Zero sugar.
You know, nobody wakes up and says, today feels like a life ruining kind of day. But one bad night is all it takes. Just one situation, one bad choice, one moment where common sense clocked out early and everything falls apart. On One Bad Night, we unpack the cases where chaos meets consequence. I mean, we're still true crime, still heavy on the facts, with just enough foolery to keep it real. What's up, y'all? It's Tiffany, aka Detective Lightskinn, and welcome to One Bad Night. So, we're just gonna jump right in and we're gonna set the scene real quick. It's a birthday, drinks are flowing, everybody's outside celebrating, and everybody feeling real good, right? Now, this wasn't a planned meetup. These were strangers crossing paths on a night where alcohol was involved and judgment was slow. By the end of the night, one person wouldn't make it home and another would be facing consequences that would follow them for the rest of their life. This is the case of Drayshawn Congress and Crystal Pinkins. One bad night after the birthday toast. It's August 17th, 2013. Crystal Pinkins is outside celebrating her birthday. First of all, Leo behavior. Summer birthday, Cleveland Heat, and my girl is turning 41. Yeah, she was outside, okay? And let's be clear, Crystal wasn't just popping bottles for nothing. She was doing so good. Like, she owned her own interior design business. The girl was successful and she had just bought herself a brand new Benz truck to celebrate her birthday and her hard work. And listen, I fully believe in showing out for your birthday. Treat yourself, spoil yourself because you earned it. So yeah, Crystal, she deserved all of that. So we said we're gonna set the scene. Cleveland in the summertime. Cleveland in the summertime is real fun. It's just when it's not, it's just horrible. So she's down the way, not in the best neighborhood, but it's familiar. She's at the VIP lounge on the corner of Mount Auburn and East 93rd Street. This was literally at the end of my granny street. So yeah, and let's be honest for a second. The VIP lounge, it don't get excited. It was not like upscale. No, this was one of those hole in the wall bars. And like Cleveland got hella hole in the wall bars, okay? Ain't nothing VIP about the name. Okay. So it's around 2 a.m. Like I said, drinks have been flowing. And around here, bars close at 2:30. So everybody's in there like, all right, let's wrap this up mode. Crystal's actually out with her man Lamar, and they decide they're gonna go ahead and call it a night. So Lamar pulls the truck around to the front of the bar, and they both pause for just a second. Now, according to Lamar, Crystal had opened her door to pour out some liquor she had in the car. She's probably pre-gaming from before, and it was just some leftover liquor. Because shit, as high as these drinks be, you got to pre-game sometime. And that's when it all goes to hell. So they end up pulling up to another car. It's parked in front of the bar. It's a black Dodge Magnum. Let me pause right here for a second because this is off topic. But I hated that goddamn car. Like, they tried to make a station wagon fly. Like, it never worked. That car was so freaking ugly. But for some reason, the dope boys love them cars. Like, I swear every hood had at least 3 or 4. But anyway, this is where it starts to get murky. Now, it's unclear whether words were exchanged, whether somebody felt disrespected, or whether a temper flared because alcohol was involved and people weren't thinking straight. But what we do know is this: a man wearing a white t shirt and jeans walks up and kicks Crystal's car door. Now imagine that you out, you celebrating your birthday, you just bought yourself a brand new Benz, and this nigga done came and kicked your car door. Now you know that shit left for dead, but you minding your business. I would be fucking pissed, right? Like, so she like, man, the fuck, and she closes her door, and Lamar starts to pull off. But this is the part that where it all went to hell because they didn't move fast enough. A shot goes off. and then another, and then another. Whew. And just like that, one bad night officially becomes permanent. Because this is the part where everybody wishes the story stopped, but it doesn't. Crystal had been shot in the head. Now, Lamar had pulled off, but he only made it about a block before reality caught up to him and he pulls over and dials 911. But unfortunately, it's already too late. And by the time Cleveland police arrived, Crystal was already laying on the ground. And I know, Lamar did everything he could. Like when someone you love is bleeding out in front of you, adrenaline takes over. You're not thinking right. You're just trying to figure out if you can save them. But sometimes trying your hardest just is sadly not enough. So when Detective David Borden arrives on the scene, the car told the story before anyone even opened their mouth. It was a freaking bloody mess. There was blood everywhere on the seats, the dashboard, the windows, the doors, everything. She had been shot once in the head, and the car itself had been hit 3 times. Now, inside the vehicle, detectives found a spent bullet casing, and it was later identified as coming from a 9mm handgun. And by that point, officers had already identified the victim as Crystal Pinkins, a woman who woke up that morning just getting ready to celebrate her birthday, a woman who just went out to have a good time, a woman who didn't know she was about to cross paths with the wrong person at the worst possible moment. It wasn't supposed to end like this. And standing there looking at the car and all that blood, there was no spinning it, there was no reframing it, and there was no justifying it. This was a life taken abruptly, violently, and unnecessarily. So before we go any further, we do need to pause and say her name with intention because we need to talk about who she really was because she wasn't just a victim in a headline. Now, her full name was Crystal Monique Pinkins. She was born August 16th, 1972, right here in Cleveland, Ohio, to her mother, Veronica Pinkins. Now, she had siblings, family, roots, a whole life before this one moment tried to reduce her to one night. She was a mother of 6. Let me say that again. She had 6 babies, 5 boys and 1 girl. And any Black woman raising kids knows what that means. That is strength and sacrifice. That's showing up every single day, even when you're tired. And that's being the backbone, whether anybody claps for you or not. Now, look, she been in a long-term relationship with Lamar, and by all accounts, Crystal was not a woman looking for trouble. She stayed in her lane, she handled her business, and she took care of home. And like we said, she was a business owner. We love a Black woman who about her business. She working, hustling, providing, creating stability for herself and her family. Like that is Black girl magic in real life, not Instagram quotes, not hashtag, but doing what needs to be done and doing it quietly. Now, everybody described Crystal the same way. She was chill, she was cool, and like we said, she minded her Black owned business. She wasn't loud, she wasn't messy, and she wasn't in nobody's business but her own. She was the type of woman who just wanted peace. She wanted to live and enjoy her life and celebrate her birthday because she had every right to. And that's why this hurts so bad because Crystal Monique Pinkins did absolutely nothing to deserve this. She wasn't out here reckless or careless, and she was not looking for confrontation. Just a Black woman living her life, loving her kids, and handling her business. And her life was stolen in a moment that it should have never happened. So we're going to say her name with pride and not just pain. Crystal Monique Pinkins, a mother, a businesswoman, a Cleveland woman. So rest peacefully, Queen. So back to the scene, okay? Whew, gotta lighten this up a little bit. Now, Cleveland police are moving like, okay, yeah, no, this is about to get ugly. So they split up. They take Lamar down to the station. Not on no suspect shit because he's the only one that can walk them through this mess from start to finish. And you already know that man was shook. Like he just watched his whole life fall apart in seconds. Meanwhile, there's the other officers. They go ahead and head back to the bar. Now, listen, anybody who was outside when them shots went off, baby, they evaporated, gone like smoke. Like everybody suddenly had somewhere to be. And that's typical hood behavior. When bullets start flying, everybody minding their business immediately. So detectives, they go inside the bar like, okay, cool. Nobody saw nothing. Figures, typical. But then somebody behind the bar says the magic words. Oh, yeah, we got some cameras. And they were like, oh, shit, say less. because now they get to see exactly how a birthday night turned into a homicide. So they pull up the footage, and y'all, it is all there. So, like we had said, Chris, you see Crystal Lamar pulling up in that silver Benz truck. Crystal opens the door, probably just trying to dump her drink and go home like a normal person. You also see this black Dodge Magnum sitting there with a group of dudes just posted up, hanging around, doing too goddamn much. You can tell something gets said, nothing deep, nothing worth dying over. Just that little slick mouth, alcohol fuel ego shit that turns grown men stupid. And then, because of course, one of them loses all his goddamn sense. You see a man in a white t shirt turn around. He reaches under the hood of the Magnum. Yes, I said under the hood. And pulls out a gun and just starts shooting. No warning, no hesitation, just reckless as fuck. Then, because apparently violence was a theme of the night, another dude in a black t shirt turns around and pistol whips somebody standing outside the bar. Random as hell. That's at this point, it's just freaking chaos. People running, a whole scuffle breaks out. And then just like that, the dudes hop back in the Magnum and peel off that they didn't just end a woman's life over absolutely nothing. And while detectives are watching this footage, Lamar's downtown telling the exact same story. No switching it up, no extra sauce. He tells them that he didn't know that man. There wasn't no beef. Crystal just wanted to pour her drink out. So it was basically one comment, one moment, and then gunfire. In that video, it backed him up. So now police are like, okay, yeah, this ain't no misunderstanding. This is a reckless ass shooting, multiple men in a crowded area, and now they're just driving around Cleveland like nothing happened. So the Cleveland police immediately put out a bolo for that black Dodge Magnum because it's not just about Crystal, as devastating as that already is, because now you got men who clearly don't give a damn still on the streets. And this is the part where you lean in and go, because once police start figuring out who was in that car, that is when the real story begins. And here's where it's going to get wild. Because it's not even a full hour later before that bolo gets a hit. Less than 60 minutes. And it was actually an off-duty Cleveland police officer who saw that black Dodge Magnum near West 5th and McQuarrie Avenue. Same car, description, same energy. So detectives pull up, and sure enough, the men fit what was seen on that camera. White tee and black tee. Now the tickets are like, oh yeah, it's y'all. So they go ahead, separate the men, start getting names, and begin the process. And Detective Borden, who originally popped up on the scene, he actually pulls up on them himself. White tee, man's name is Drayshawn Congress. Black tee, this man's name is Terrence Bird. Let me tell y'all something about Drayshawn, right? This nigga had to be drunk as hell. Because when Detective Borden gets there, this man is passed out asleep in the back of the cop car. Like, sleep? Sir, how? Okay, so I need somebody to explain this to me like I'm 5. Because if I knew I had just shot up somebody's car and the police now had run me down, I would have sobered up immediately. Like, my heart would be racing, I'd be sweating, child, I'm wide awake. But nah. This man is knocked out cold like he just left brunch and had one too many mimosas. And let's be honest, have y'all ever seen the back of a cop car? Them seats are not plush. Like, they put that hard ass plastic behind there. It gotta be cold and uncomfortable. Ain't got no pillows, no lumbar support, and you just back there sleeping peacefully. Yeah, this nigga was gone. So that just tells you how reckless this whole situation was. Because this man ain't scared, remorseful. He ain't even alert. He just drunk, careless, and laid up in the back of the police car like this was a nap break. This was pure stupidity fueled by alcohol and ego. Yeah, but look, the night was so far from over. So detectives, they start doing what they do best. They start separating people and they get to talking. So they decide they're going to start with Mr. Black T, Mr. Terrence Bird. So they sit him down and ask him, so, tell us what happened. Walk us through your night. Tell us from the beginning. No, don't skip nothing either. So Terrence was like, yeah, I was at the bar. He like, I had went inside, had a couple of drinks with my nigga Drayshawn. Okay, cool. Checks out. He like, so after that, I came back outside. And then all of a sudden, he like, look, some gunshots start going off. So, this story starting to get a little convenient, right? But Terrence was like, man, I don't know who was shooting. I ain't seen nothing. I don't even know nothing. He said he was too busy trying to run because he needed to get away. He like, look, I was shot 6 times in the past. Like, nigga, pull up his shirt. Okay, we didn't ask for that, but all right, sir. I don't know what that's person supposed to prove, but you know what? Noted, check, got it. So basically, he's painting himself as a man who knows how dangerous gunfire is and who would never stick around when gunshots ring out. And then he throws in one last line for good measure. He says, that shooting, it was just senseless. Now, see, I always get a little twitchy when the word senseless comes out because it usually means, I want y'all to know this, I think this is bad, but don't look at me too hard, right? And at this point, detectives are listening. They're not arguing or correcting him because they already saw the video. So they already know that his story ain't lining up the way he hopes it will. And Terrence, he's not as far removed from this mess as he wants him to believe. So, like I said, they're listening to him talk. They just letting him nod, letting him ramble. And they like, all right, we've heard enough. All right, let's go ahead and move this along. So they was like, look, let me tell you straight up. So there was cameras outside the bar, right? And we've already reviewed the surveillance. And he probably had a oh shit, I'm fucked moment. So he like, hey, can I see that video? At this point, they like, we sick of this shit. Because they already know what's on the tape. So if they know what's on the tape, you was there, you know what's on the tape. So they asked him directly, do you know who did the shooting? And Terrence pauses and then he says, well, I mean, y'all got the video. Y'all already know. Oh, okay. So now we've gone from I didn't see anything to you already know. Got it. And that's when detectives stopped playing with him. They called him out. They was like, look, we saw you on that video pistol whipping and beating the man outside the bar. And then Terrence has the nerve to get indignant. Like, he got defensive, like annoyed. He like, well, shit, what y'all charging me with? So they was like, all right, well, since you asked, aggravated murder. When I tell you that room was so quiet, you could have heard a rat piss on cotton, child. Listen. They ask him, like, they're like, all right, so we'll give you one more chance to start over. And if you want, you can tell us the truth this time. And that's when Terrence just shut all the way down. It wasn't no more talking, explaining. It wasn't no more fake confusion. He's just like, I'm done. Interview over. And they like, okay. Texas are like, we already got what we need. Because when the video catches up to the lies and the charges finally get named, that's when folks realize this wasn't just a wrong place, wrong time. This is when accountability is knocking and it's loud. So detectives leave Terrence sitting right where he shut down, quiet, tight-lipped, and probably mad as hell. So then they go in and sit with Dre Shine Congress, white tee, the shooter. And from the moment he's sitting down, he just acting lost. Like, he's still discombobulated from that napping. He don't even know why nobody's talking to him. So they ask him, same drill, like, walk us through the night. So he like, all right. I was out with my nigga Terrence. We went inside the bar. We had a few drinks and then we left. Real dry, real flat, giving nothing. So the detective looks him dead in his face and was like, a woman was killed tonight. And Dre Strong responds with, quote, wow. Not, oh my God, not what happened, not are you serious, just, wow. No emotion, no concern, nothing. So the detectives press further. They like, we got a video. We got good video. Dre Sean was like, okay. So at this point, look, I gotta jump in real quick because remember we had a discussion about this on last week's episode. Shut the fuck up. It's free. Why are you still talking? They've told you somebody is dead. They done told you they got a video. You shouldn't even be giving one words. You shouldn't be saying anything besides, I want an attorney. But anyway, he decides he gonna talk. So Dre Shine starts describing a Benz truck pulling up. He says people was in and they was talking shit. Words was exchanged, but he ain't know who they was. So detective was like, do you remember kicking the car door shut? And he was like, yeah, I did that. Okay, so now we got him interacting with the car. And then he like, so I shot once. And the detective was like, yeah, no, you shot more than once and now that woman is dead. And Dre Sean fires back with, I wasn't shooting nobody just to kill nobody. Huh? Excuse me? So detectives ask the most basic, obvious question in the world. Why did you shoot? And this man says with his whole chest, and this is a direct quote, I don't know. I can't even tell you. And just like I'm speechless right now, the detective is literally speechless too, because how do you even respond to that? You don't know why you fired a gun into a car. You don't know why bullets went flying. You don't know why a woman lost her life. That's not fear or self defense. That's not confusion. That's just recklessness, alcohol, and ego. This is a grown man who never once stopped to think about consequences. And the wildest part, he's doing all this to himself. Nobody forced him to talk. Nobody tricked him or coerced him. He just sat there and talked himself straight into a homicide case. It's free. Just shut up. Now, like I said, shut the fuck up is free. Because Drayshawn didn't just dig a hole, he jumped in it, grabbed a shovel, and kept going. So at this point, the detective is looking at Drayshawn like, you have got to freaking be kidding me. And he asked him the most basic, common sense question possible. Why didn't y'all just fight? Why would you go back? Why would you escalate it? And Drayshawn, no, he got the memo. He don't say shit. I guess he finally recalled that he ain't got to talk. I don't know, but by this point, it's too late. Because he ain't had no answer, no excuse, no logic, just vibes in empty air. So the detective switches it up and was like, what did you and Terrence talk about in the car after all this happened? You know, after bullets are flying, chaos, after somebody might be dying. Trey Sean was like, we ain't talking about nothing. He said they just turned the music and rolled off. Turned the music up. Like this was a damn victory lap. Like y'all just left brunch. Like nobody's life had just been shattered. And then this man has the audacity to say, I ain't think I even hurt nobody. Sir, you fired a gun multiple times into a car. What the fuck did you think was gonna happen? Like the bullets were gonna hit Control Alt Z and undo themselves? At this point, when I tell you the detectives' flabbers were not just gasted, they were obliterated, okay? Because this wasn't fear, this was not self-defense, this wasn't I felt threatened. This was just fucking dumb. It was random, it was senseless, and it was alcohol-soaked stupidity with a gun involved. There was no plan, no reason, no remorse. Just a grown man who couldn't walk away, couldn't regulate his emotions, typical man, and couldn't handle his liquor. So now a woman is dead. And the part that like really haunts me is they didn't argue. They didn't panic in the car. They didn't even process what happened. They just turned the music up and kept it pushing. Like, I'm just so baffled. But Crystal Pickens, she didn't get that luxury. She didn't get to ride home. She didn't get to wake up. She didn't get another birthday because these two men decided their ego mattered more than somebody's life. And that's the kind of sense of violence that makes you sit back and say, this never had to happen. Now, before anybody acts brand new or shocked about how this night ended, we need to talk about who Drayshawn Congress actually was because this didn't come out of thin air. So Drayshawn was born July 20th, 1985, right here in Cleveland, Ohio. And he grew up in Maple Heights. So if you've been listening for a while, you know that's where I grew up in Maple Heights, right? So yeah, I did know him. He actually lived on the same street as my best friend. We went to elementary school together. He was a year ahead of me, and I had the biggest crush on him when we were kids. Like I was like 9, so give me some grace, okay? So from what I remember, he had 2 sisters, and from whatever I saw, like I never saw a dad around. I don't let's say that's not an excuse, that's just some context. And let me be clear, even when we was in freaking elementary school, the nigga was bad as hell. Like, he was always that kid that was just always in some shit, always at the principal's office, just always in some shit. Just bad as fuck. And like, I don't know. Like, so anyway, he did go to Maple Heights High School, but no, the nigga didn't graduate. At some point he made a decision, not a mistake, a choice. The nigga chose a street life. I mean, and that be so baffling to me. Like, y'all be suburb niggas and then y'all want to be hood niggas. I don't understand. Like, I'm not glorifying like the hood. Like, I don't understand. Like, our parents worked to give us, better than what they had, and then y'all still try and go back to that. I don't understand that mentality because I know several people like that. Like, I don't. Y'all like came from the suburbs. 'Cause back in the day, Maple was the suburbs. It is not what it is now because Maple is lightweight the hood now. But back then, it was nice. It was the suburbs for real. But anyway, here's where the pattern becomes undeniable. Back in 2004, Drayshawn caught a case for burglary and possessing criminal tools. Not really a slap on the wrist situation, but his bond was 75,000 and he posted the same day. Dope money, we got it, you got it. He later pled guilty. He was just sentenced to probation and he was ordered to pay restitution. So this wasn't his very first encounter with the system, and this wasn't someone who had never been given a chance. Like I said, you had already been arrested, already been charged, and you already bypassed prison time. So the system did give him an opportunity to change his course, but instead, he stayed right where he was because the streets don't raise you, they use you. They do not teach you restraint, they teach reaction. They don't teach consequences until it's too late. And when you mix that mindset with alcohol, a gun, and unchecked ego, you get nights like this. This wasn't predictable, it was inevitable. And the most tragic part is Crystal had nothing to do with any of it. She didn't know him. She didn't provoke him. She didn't choose his life or his decisions. She just crossed paths with someone who had been choosing wrong for a while. And that one night, that one bad night, cost her everything. Once the dust settles, everybody gets snatched up. Drayshawn, Terrence, all of them. So both of them are hit with aggravated murder, felonious assault, basically letting off shots where they absolutely shouldn't have, and a weapons charge. Bond, a cool $1 million for both of them. And while these men are just sitting in cells trying to figure out their next lie, Crystal Pinkins is being laid to rest on August 28th, 2013, less than 2 weeks after her birthday. This woman lost her life on her birthday. Okay. Now, at first, both Drayshawn and Terrence try and play tough and they plead not guilty. But, baby, between them videos, statements, and the witnesses, that confidence didn't last long. And while I'm digging through court records, because that's what I do, I'm Detective Lightskinn, duh, another name pops up, Delvon Bird. Same last name as Terrence. So I'm thinking that's probably his brother. Now, Devon ends up getting arrested a little bit later. It wasn't until September 23rd, but he is tied as a co-defendant on their case. And he gets slapped with aggravated assault and felonious assault, and his bond was set at 250,000. So I'm thinking he was one of the men on those videos fighting. I'm not sure, and I'm not exactly sure why they tied him to the case, but they did. Now, Delvon ends up copping a plea and he just gets 3 years of probation, which said, like I said, he was involved, but not that involved. Now, back to the main event. Before this case even sees a jury, both Drayshawn and Terrence fold. Now, Terrence goes first. On February 3rd, 2014, he pleads guilty to felonious assault, and he's actually sentenced to 14 years in prison plus 3 years probation once he gets out. So he's currently sitting at the Northeast Ohio Correctional Facility, and he does not see daylight again until August 15, 2027, which is just next year. So he ain't got much time. I hope he does right when he gets out. But looking at his prison picture, he looked like he's still on the same bullshit. I don't know. Now, Drayshawn, oh boy, he gets the big boy sentence. Now, he ends up pleading guilty to murder with a firearm specification, and the judge hits him with 15 years to life. Not 15 and you good, not 15 in the handshake, baby. 15 to life. Parole eligibility is 2031. And like we said, that is eligibility. That's a maybe. That is not a promise. And here's where it gets funny, but like not ha ha funny, but like nigga please funny. A few months later, Drayshawn suddenly discovers a dictionary that Maple Education didn't do him right. So I guess while he was in prison, he started like reading or something. So October 2014, he files a motion and his lawyer didn't explain the plea well enough, and that keeping his plea would cause a quote manifest injustice. Sir, please. You were drunk, reckless, on camera, and talking too much. The court was like, oh, that's so cute, but no, we're okay. So he appeals that, and the court was just like, no, thank you. So then one thing I say, he is very persistent, right? In 2020, he trials again, but this time he files for a judicial release. Sir, please, can you please stop wasting the court's time? From a life sentence, you asking them, can you get out? And sir, you have a life sentence? So basically, the judge like laughed at him in legal language. Hell nah. Fuck you, nigga. Go sit down somewhere. And just in case anybody forgot about him, you want to know where he's sitting, and just in case anybody's wondering where he's locked up at, he's currently sitting at the Richland Correctional Institution. And guess who he's locked up with? Terrell Edwards, our offender from last week. Yes, that's Terrell. Friends on the outside, Sally's on the inside. Because, yes, they actually were friends on the outside. I told y'all Cleveland got like a half a degree of separation. Cleveland stayed Clevelanding, right? So now one last little messy little side note before we close this out, because like I said, this city is so small and the T is always connected, right? So one of Crystal's sons, Derek, was actually on Love after lockup. Now, through my own personal connections, I found out that Crystal was actually my homegirl's sister. And when I say they look like twins, oh my God, I did not realize it until I figured out that was her sister, and looked at her. I was like, oh my God, y'all are freaking twins. So my friend was like, when I called her, she spelled the T to me. So she was like, yeah, Derek was on Love after lockup, and he was on Love after lockup. So he got out of jail. He was stealing rental cars, right? But he had been putting them rental cars in my friend's name, almost dragging her into a whole criminal scheme that she knew nothing about. Messy and dangerous, right? Just a reminder that TV don't ever tell the full story. So, and it was a whole lot of other stuff, but I don't want to put all her business out there. She told me I could, but I was just like, I don't know. I think some things just should just stay private. So I'll just, be respectful on that end. But, and that is how one night of ego, alcohol, and stupidity wrecked an entire family. And that is where we're going to wrap this one up. So thank y'all for listening. I really hope y'all enjoy the episode. I'll be back in 2 weeks with another case. And until then, drop a comment and let me know what you think, because I want to hear it. And if you have case suggestions for me, we love case suggestions. As long as it's about one random chance encounter and something went wrong, hit me with it. You know how to find us, Melanin Mysteries, on IG, TikTok, and Facebook. And you can also find us on Love, Lies, and Alibis, the Melanin Mysteries private discussion group. And yeah, just let me know what you think. And before we go, just remember, it don't take much. Just one bad night.